Well, hello everybody and welcome to Mendel Center Connections. I'm Mike Nadolski from the Mendel Center, and I'm so pleased to have with us today Larry and Sandy Feldman from the Race Relations Council. Hi, Larry and Sandy.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Welcome to Zoom 2020. Our way of getting together these days. Wish it could be in person, but here we go. This works, right?
This does work.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's
so
been
thanks for
important for a
joining.
lot of organizations.
Yeah, thanks for being a guest today. And we want to talk about the Race Relations Council and the work that's happening right now as the global uprising, protests, the conversation has really emerged over these last couple of weeks into a whole new level. And locally, obviously, a lot's going on. So before we get into specifics about what's happening now, can you give us a little bit of background on the Race Relations Council, how long it's been around and what your roles are or have been?
Sure. The Race Relations Council has been around starting in 1998. So what's that make it? 22 years. The council formed in the wake of Alex Kotlowitz's book, The Other Side of the River. People from both sides of the river came together at Lake Michigan College, said, we need to do something about the segregation and the inequality between these communities. And we've been doing lots of interesting things ever since.
It's been important for us to see the longevity of this effort, because I think that, especially in the realm of race relations, what we know historically across the country is there'll be an incident, it prompts a lot of interest, a lot of activity, well-intentioned people stand up and speak out, and then interest wanes, and then that fuels the despair that marginalized people feel. It's hard for them to believe that there'll be lasting change. And so one of the things that we feel good about in the Race Relations Council and All God's Children Choir and Calling All Colors is that they all have 20 years longevity where that effort has been sustained. And so it's exciting to see now this wave of interest, and it feels like one of our challenges is to be able to harness that energy and that awakening and really help people connect with meaningful activity. You know, they say demonstration needs to lead to legislation and then reconciliation.
Yeah, that path is so important. I have to say my head is spinning a little bit right now. I made I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I watched the George Floyd video that was just released on Facebook today from the bystanders, which I hadn't seen before. And I obviously on the news and everything had seen the other videos and images and have read the story, but it was 4.5 minutes of basically bystanders pleading for the police officers to remove, the one in particular to remove his knee, that he wasn't moving, and they just kept saying it over and over again and nothing happened. It's such the lack of humanity in that, so overpowering.
It was terrible, and so many of the others have been terrible as well. And I do hope that those people who are now seeing this and feeling appalled by what's happening will stay with this. There's lots of work that needs to be done. There's lots of changes that need to be made. So I hope that this can be a turning point and that things can get consistently better now.
It's heartening to see that in some places there already are changes in the law, and there already are police departments that are being looked at with closer scrutiny and consideration about how could the roles be distributed so police aren't interacting in situations that are more the area of expertise of social workers, for example. You know, I feel heartened that there really are some action plans that seem to be evolving out of this flood of emotion that all of us feel if we're in touch with our humanity and allow the other to be every bit as human. Every mother's son is as valuable as my son. Every father's daughter is as valued as Breonna Taylor was by her family before she was killed.
Yeah, locally, what's been most encouraging for you? Has anything transpired recently locally? I know the march was, 2 marches now have happened in the last couple of weeks that have been very peaceful and very well attended. Well, actually 3, counting the one in Berrien Springs, yeah.
The marches have certainly been encouraging. Prior to the marches, at our last Race Relations Council meeting a month ago, Steve Pirangelli, who is the current chief deputy prosecutor and as far as I know, likely to be our next county prosecutor, met with us on a Zoom call and for an hour talked about his commitment to improving race relations in our area, his commitment to following many of the guidelines of the Michigan Commission that recently released proposals for reforming policing in the state of Michigan. It was a very encouraging meeting. So hopefully all of those things can come together and we can move forward.
And you have a meeting coming up, actually, and actually, I think by the time this airs, it will have already happened. So I guess I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball a little bit, or you probably have an agenda already. And what's the Race Relations Council planning in the near term?
Well, our next meeting is this coming Wednesday. And we will be initially hearing from Dr. Andre Townsell, the superintendent of the Benton Harbor area schools. We invited him and he accepted our invitation to talk with us about his plans for turning around the Benton Harbor area schools, something that we are very much in favor of. Part of the dialogue lately, with which we completely agree, is let's put more resources into education. Let's put more resources into helping kids grow up in a healthy way, rather than putting so many resources into aspects of the police department that other people like social workers could handle better. Let's take some of that responsibility off of the police. I think the police would welcome that, and then just limit them to doing the things that they are best trained to do. So we're looking forward to that conversation with Dr. Townsell.
In some ways, Mike, this capsule summary of what happened at the last meeting and what's happening at this Wednesday's meeting is indicative of what our life has been in the Race Relations Council, that for the last more than 20 years, we've looked at specific problem areas and then we've tried to figure out action plans to tackle that problem area. For example, there was a home lending study. There were other kinds of initiatives where we looked closely at what was going on and what were the inequities, and then we tried to figure out how could we make it be different. And so I'm hoping that some of the folks that are frustrated with the status quo in this area and recognize racial inequities, we also looked at differences in how healthcare was provided, try to make the system here more sensitive to ways in which people of color felt discriminated against. And we did some education of some folks at Lakeland so that there'd be a heightened awareness of how part of our community felt when they walked in the door. So I hope that folks that would like to take it beyond action in the streets will be in touch with us so that they can look at which of these areas, criminal justice, education, healthcare, which of these areas do they feel most drawn to, and where would their energy go? And how could they support some of our subcommittees that are working on these areas? We had a number of our folks that went through the Court Watch training program with Beth McCree, so that we could have people watching the proceedings in the courtroom to make sure that there was justice in Berrien County.
Must be very encouraged. You mentioned healthcare and Lakeland, the $50 million commitment that Spectrum Lakeland has made to race relations, and what all do you think of that?
We think it's great. It's very encouraging. The disparities in the health of people of color compared to white people are just appalling. And so I'm glad to see that happening. I wish it would have happened sooner, but I'm glad it's happening. And I hope that more will be added to that.
That's kind of the phrase that keeps coming up. That for almost just about everything. It seems like such a long time, and we're, but mostly, I mean, I look at myself, I mean, I'm an advocate, but, and I can step away from this work, and people of color and other people that are oppressed cannot. And that's the privilege, and that's part of the inequity, and it's a constant reminder of just that difference right there, and how that puts us kind of in a perspective that where we have to challenge ourselves to stay engaged and find ways to make a meaningful difference.
Indeed. Let me pick up on what Sandy was saying. We do hope that people will join the Race Relations Council and other organizations that are working to bring about specific change. If anybody wants to get in touch with us about the council, they could email us at Sandy and Larry Feldman at hotmail.com. So just our names all spelled out at hotmail.com.
The other thing, Mike, that the council has done that I think connects with what's happening right now is that almost 20 years ago, we felt like it was so critical to support youth leadership in tackling this problem, that we needed to know that young people that felt compelled to do this work would have some support in moving forward. And so we initiated the Race Relations Council Scholarship Program, so that a student that either through their church or through their block club or taking a particular course that lit a fire in them feel compelled to make a difference in the area of race relations, they can write an essay, apply to the council for a scholarship, and we award 2 scholarships every year. It was originally restricted to Lake Michigan College. Now it's open to all of the colleges and universities in the state of Michigan. And it's a way of cultivating young leadership, and that's part of what's striking about seeing the people in the streets today, that there are a lot of young people that feel passionately. So the council wants to support their educational venture, and if anyone would like to make a donation, because a lot of folks now are saying, what could I do? What could make a difference? You know, making a contribution so that a young person that's willing to assume a leadership role can finish their education is a very meaningful way to contribute.
And if they want to contribute, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Same way. Just get in touch with us through Sandy and Larry Feldman at hotmail.com, and we'll tell them what to do.
I would imagine, in addition to yourselves, there have been some other folks on the Race Relations Council have been committed long-term. Who all else is involved or has been? I know people have probably come and gone a little bit too along the way, but.
Some people have certainly come and gone, but quite a few have been there from the very beginning. It's exciting to us for this Wednesday conversation with Dr. Townsell that Gladys Peoples-Burks has been on the council from the beginning, former principal and school board president at the Benton Harbor area schools, and her younger sister, Barbara Peoples, longtime teacher at the Benton Harbor area schools.
You're
And
my former neighbor.
uh,
Ah,
Yeah.
and Charmaine Sanders, who is currently the co-chair of the Alpact group, which is also having a very important Zoom conference a week from tomorrow, along with the interfaith group, to talk about issues of race relations
And
and
what,
public
I
safety.
didn't catch that acronym. What was the?
Alpact is ALPACT, and that's the group that was formed by the Michigan Civil Rights Organization a few years back. And the Southwest Michigan Alpact is a group that brings the community and police officers together to talk about how to improve policing in the area.
Oh, great.
and their meetings are open, and it would be really good, I think, for community members, especially now under these circumstances, to tune in on that and see the work that's already been done and how they could contribute moving forward. Also, Mike, among the early members that have stayed on board, Eric and Audrey Lester, who've been such great resources when we've tried to make a difference in healthcare services, and Pat and Emerson Payne, who have been really contributing members from the beginning and are well-versed on educational issues, as well as Jackie Johnson from Lake Michigan College. And Jeanette Holton has been a more recent addition, but full of ideas and resources for the community. So we're a blend of probably 2/3 folks who made the commitment and stayed with it for 20 years, and then 1/3 of people who have just ignited our energy and re-energized us with their passion, and we're really grateful for that.
Including some young people who joined in recent years, because many of us original people are not as young as we used to be. So it's important to get that infusion of youthful energy and ideas.
You know, it's been interesting to see that some of our scholarship winners have gone ahead and finished school and then joined the council. So we have these fresh voices, freshly minted, well-educated young people who feel passionate about these issues. So somebody like Caprice Motley will come and shed some fresh light on a subject at hand.
So people can become involved in a bunch of different ways: volunteering, working on specific projects or a topic that interests them, or even just coming to listen. Your meetings are open to the public?
Absolutely. Once a month. Since we're doing Zoom meetings, it's once a month on Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30. And we may keep that when we start meeting in person again, or we may shift back. We were meeting Tuesdays, but for Zoom meetings, we're doing Wednesdays.
Hopefully sometime in July, we'll get to be able to go back to meeting personally with some social distancing and all that, but I guess time will tell.
Yes.
So.
You know, Mike, I think something else that might be worth mentioning is in writing our book, Building Bridges Across the Racial Divide, we spend a lot of time talking about contact theory and how real substantive change occurs when people from different groups come together and over time work on a shared project. And when they participate in positions of equal status. And that's what we felt in each of these endeavors that we've been part of, that the relationships that form are the change agents. And that all of us who have gotten a chance to know each other in such a deep, authentic way are sort of carriers of the message as we go into other areas of our lives. And so that's another thing I think both of us would really encourage people to take to heart. As you're walking in the streets and feeling elated because it's the most diverse experience you've had, carry that further. Ask yourself, who am I likely to go out with on a Saturday night? Who is likely to visit my mother in the hospital if she has a stroke? You know, look at how far those connections go in your life And if they're limited, contemplate where you could be active to have the opportunity to go to another level.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know this is a time of personal reflection for a lot of people as their normal life routines have been disrupted. I mean, what a great time to look personally and also organizationally. I know a lot of organizations are coming out with statements, and that's all meaningful too. But you know, the old saying of actions speak louder than words is so true.
Yep.
And I know at the Mendel Center, we're reevaluating our operations and trying to do better at reflecting our community. We've had efforts over the years, some successful, some not as successful, but we've never really looked holistically at how we could be more inclusive, not to the level that we need to. And so is that something the Race Relations Council is thinking about, is how to help some of these cultural institutions or institutions in general shift how they approach the work that they do?
Absolutely. We would love to partner with you and your group at the Mendel Center, as well as other groups in the community. We have partnered, as Sandy mentioned, with Lakeland Hospital. We also partnered with other groups trying to bring a public defender to our area, which there now is. And the work that Lake Michigan College has done in the Mendel Center is important work. But there's always more to be done, and we would love to collaborate. You bet.
Yeah, our real challenge has been getting our season to be more representational of the community. It's challenging to get audiences to come to live performances, more so than I think people realize sometimes how difficult that is to make it sustainable. So it's easy to come up with reasons why it doesn't happen, why we don't have the diversity of offerings that we would like to have. But boy, if we could figure that out, how meaningful would that be for the community? And we're certainly, I mean, this is a public conversation about this, and that's where we're taking it, is having conversations to try to do better.
That's great. And anything we can do to help with that, we absolutely would want to do, all of us on the council.
Thank you so much. So thanks for spending time on the Mendel Center Connections today. And my best to you always. I've appreciated our friendship and our collaborations over the years, and look forward to many more to come.
That's great.
Thank you, Mike, and we appreciate all of your efforts from the early days of Bridges Theater production and your sensitivity to how everybody needs to feel welcome at the Mendel Center.
Yep.
Well, thanks. All my best.